Ah, yes, camping. A calming way to get away from the world, kind of like shut out all the noise and technology we're with, to get out and reconnect with nature, and then to have to hide a body of that motherfucker who squealed. Yeah, high school was good for me too. Anyways, so this week on Digimon Ghost Game, we do this thing that is very rare for this show. We try to continue the fucking plot. And I actually like the way they did this. Yeah, like, it's probably important to state that my complaint with the way the other episodes have handled the show's plot, it's not that I necessarily need plot to be 100% there. On the contrary, I like how much this show puts character and their interactions first and foremost. I think that's one of its great strengths. But you kind of need to always have what the show is about going on, if only just in the background. Something, say, Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens does right. And I think this episode actually handles pretty well, so we're going to talk about it. So yeah, this episode starts off, as all of them do. We see that people, they go out in the woods after they finish snorting their cocaine and like doing whatever other drugs they go out into the woods for. They proceed to get attacked by a tree, and the tree eats them. And yeah, this is why you should stay indoors and just play video games all day, like I imagine most people do. But yeah, no, so after the OP and everything, the OP comes first, then they show, this still strange they do it that way. We see Hero and the other two, well actually no, first we see that Hero's going camping. This is a campground he would go to a lot with his dad. That's already a nice little character detail, that him and his dad just liked camping. Just little character details like that are kind of all you need. Yeah, no, we see that he gets to the campground. When he's talking to the two guys there, they're apparently okay with a 12-year-old just going out into the woods by himself, and hopefully he doesn't die, but whatever. He goes out where we find out they're having this issue of people disappearing. The forest is considered haunted, but they're just like, nah, they're just not paying. Which, let's be real here, that's actually what would totally be happening right now. Just no one wants to pay. But yeah, no. So then Hero and Gammamon go out to the campground, and we get this flashback. I think it was here the flashback happened, of Hero and Ruli and the third one. I'm just going to turn this into a joke that I can't remember this motherfucker's name. We see them on a video call where they're talking about how they all have Digivolution forms. Hero flaunts his I'm the protagonist powers in front of everybody and reveals how he has 4 Digivolutions. But the big thing is when they bring up the 4th one, the other two immediately get kind of annoyed. They're like, oh, we don't count that. We're not talking about that. Don't jinx it. We don't want to see it again. And we kind of get this interesting idea of how everyone reacts to the concept of evil Gammamon, of a Digimon who turns out to be that powerful, who did in fact almost kill them with a smile on his face. And I kind of like that idea that that's how they react to it. Like, they're just trying not to think about it, not to let it scare them. Meanwhile, for Hero's case, he just wants to understand what's going on here. So without needing to tell it to you, it kind of makes you feel like maybe the reason Hero went camping for the weekend was just to kind of get away from everything and like just not think about it so much. Which I think is a really nice character detail, and the fact that they didn't dwell on it too much and let you come to that conclusion is quite nice. And the next few bits I quite like. Just him and Gammamon just kind of like hanging out, putting the tent up together, going fishing, Gammamon getting excited. It's a great scene, and it's also like a good way to then show the contrast when Hero then thinks back to when Bokomon died. The idea that someone as cute and innocent and lovable as Gammamon has that darkness in him and can become something so evil, and that these situations and these encounters with other Digimon can get darker than just, solve the problem. I really like that. Those are nice things. We then get the sort of other side of the plot, which is the other two don't know where Hero is. It's kind of odd he didn't say anything to anybody. He just kind of up and left, but whatever. I think it's kind of funny that the guy is just sort of like, no, we will be upright and we're not going to go into his privacy. Jellymon's already snuck into his room, hacked his computer, looked through his porn preferences. And then that's how they find out he's camping. And then the other two decide that they're going to go just to check on him because they find out the woods is haunted. Ruli, of course, mostly wants to go so she can investigate ghosts. Again, we then have to sit through that they're like, oh my god, it is a ghost. No way, it's a Digimon. Here, though, it didn't last super long. But what's interesting about the conflict in this episode is there's kind of two sides to it. You have Cherrymon, who's just fucking hunting and killing people. And you have this other Digimon, I forget what he was called. I know it was Shellmon in the original, but this is, I guess, a plant version. I forget what it was called, but that's neither here nor there. He also doesn't really like people and is kind of aggressive. So what is he doing? So he doesn't just have to deal with them. He just puts them under a sleeping spell. Again, I like that. I brought this up before. I like that kind of theme of as the show goes, Digimon are entering the world more and people are having more run-ins with them and they're going to get worse and they're going to get more complicated until eventually it just reaches that point where people will stop like overlooking it or just thinking it's nothing and it becomes an issue. Hopefully the show will address that. But yeah, no, so then Cherrymon goes to attack Hiro, where they then run into this guy, where he then gives the explanation. So then they figure out they gotta try and fight him. And so then they, of course, naturally start fighting him, or the other two. I watched this yesterday. I didn't get a chance to record last night. But yeah, no, so essentially just some combination of everyone shows up to help deal with the situation. And what's sort of interesting is that the other guy is like, kill this motherfucker. Hiro's kind of like, no. And what's interesting is while they're fighting and he comes to the conclusion not to kill him, he thinks of Gammamon being innocent and cute. Like that idea that it bothers him just as much as it bothers the other two, what could happen, but in different ways. For him, he wants to preserve Gammamon for who he is. He wants that sort of like innocent, cute little brother that could be just taken away just from sort of like how cruel the world gets and how complicated it is. And that idea that his then basis of why we shouldn't kill, we shouldn't take this too far, we shouldn't hurt, is a very interesting conclusion to then come to from just like all he's gone through. And I quite like it. The problem is, and it's kind of the problem with a lot of the bad Digimon they fight, is there's nothing redeeming about Cherrymon. It's not like some of the other episodes where this is a misunderstanding or just the end result of two very different species living together. He's fucking attacking people and not really for food. He seems to just be doing it because he wants to. So kind of like if you're going to have that then moral discussion of when is it all right to take a life, you need to have the other side be presented as more than just an obstacle to overcome. So if you're just going to have it that half of the Digimon we deal with are just evil monsters who need to be dealt with, except like Repamon and Mummymon, I don't really think you can pull off a message of like not killing unless you're really going to go into the implications. Now, there is some of that. They cut off one of Cherrymon's arms, so, you know, maiming him is okay. But then it's kind of strange, like, he just backs off immediately and disappears. And the entire basis for why he won't attack again is just that, well, he's weakened because he lost an arm. He's a fucking psycho. Like, what the... So yeah, that's still just this annoying thing of they just don't resolve any of the plots in this show. And then the other guy, it's sort of like he spent half the episode being an asshole for no reason. And then he's just kind of like, well, will you protect the people? It's like, whatever. I do like the bit where he gets mad at Hiro for not being willing to, like, take a life. And I like that at the end there, how, like, that's not fully resolved. Hiro doesn't make the big speech about why killing is wrong. It's just kind of left off on this sort of, like, ambiguous note of, well, you're a weakling, and that's going to have consequences. And there is a lot of truth to that. So with any luck, the show will hopefully build upon it. Then, at the end of the episode, Anguramon says words of wisdom again. And also, Ruli's like, I already booked us a place to stay. Where does she have the money for this? These are like 12, 13-year-olds crying out loud. But yeah, no, and then the episode ends with everyone kind of going off together. And I like the way it kind of ends on that shot of Gammamon and sort of like that desire to keep him like innocent, but like, will it work out? And hopefully the show will build on this correctly. I enjoyed this episode, and I like the way it kind of dealt with the ongoing story. I just kind of wish that the show has some very odd habits it needs to quit, and I hope it does it soon. But what did you think about this episode in the comments section below? Tell me your thoughts on it, and as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me next week where hopefully we'll get more actual plot, not just filler.